I mean, it's great that those communities here can be that tight knit and they can have that level of orientation towards that. But man, that is not their job. I don't understand why I can't
Yeah.
get people at the highest level to give this more attention than I think it deserves. It's from what I've been told, easier to get into Canada than it is to Mexico in a lot of
Right.
ways. And so they'll come in on false documents, burn the documents, walk across the border. I know a lot of the Border Patrol agents as well. The numbers are not what people would think that they are, given the volume or the size of the state. The volume of the agents would probably shock most people. Yes, they do interdict when they have the chance to, but a lot of what they're doing is reactive,
Yeah.
whether it's checking sensors, cameras, all of these things. So they're interdicting a small fraction of what's coming across. I don't know what it's going to take to get people to pay attention, nor do I actually have a turnkey solution either, because it is such a large border. It is so porous. So I don't have an answer, but I am kind of butting my head against the wall as to why people are not recognizing it as to what I consider to be at least an existential threat.
I agree with you 100%. And again, this is one of those things, in previous conversations we've had over the years on all your platforms, I mean, it's been a 15-year journey when our Met team was formed and seeing this threat embedded in California and constantly learning the severity of it as we're operating against these cartel elements. And I talk about this the first time I had contact with the Trumps, and this is a relevant story. It just triggers it because in 2016, I think we were 2 or 3 years into the Met team. Obviously, Trump was getting on the campaign trail that year, to start for the first administration, not expected to win. And I remember it was a SHOT Show, and there was a function that I was invited to with some SEAL team friends, some other people in the outdoor industry, hosted by Kuyu, Jason Hairston, who now sadly
Mhm.
deceased, the founder of Kuyu and previously Sitka and things like that. I was invited to this thing and didn't know what it was for, and it ended up being a one-on-one, 65 of us or so in the tactical and/or conservation community to meet them because they were at SHOT Show and they were getting ready to go on the campaign trail. This was January, the annual SHOT Show that you're very familiar with. We both done a lot down there with SHOT, and it was my moment to get in front of them and talk about this cartel threat we were fighting in the Silicon Valley foothills. And I remember, first thing Jason did was introduce me to Don Trump Jr. I hadn't met Don yet. I knew he was a hunter. I knew he was actively
Mhm.
involved in doing a lot of conservation stuff like you and I love. And Jason made that introduction and said, "Make sure you have your first book, War in the Woods. If you have any videos of what's going on there, because I really, really want this story out there. We got to get this fight stopped. The wildlife impacts are crazy." And so when I had that one-on-one with Don Jr., gave him the book and started to talk, and Jason introduced me, and the reaction, Andy, was crazy. Don Jr. looked at me, he looked at Jason, and he goes, "You're telling me that John and his team are game wardens in the Silicon Valley foothills, getting in gunfights with Sinaloa cartel members, putting neurotoxins on cannabis above the tech capital of the world. They almost lost an
Yep.
officer to an AK-47 round. How the F do me and my dad not know about this?" And the coolest thing was, Jason said, "That's exactly why you're meeting John today. He's a friend. We're doing some stuff. Uh,
Yep.
if you guys get elected, something has to happen." So fortunately, regardless of policy and take the politics out of it, the one thing we started to see was some awareness at the federal level, at the highest level. And through that first administration, Operation Forest Watch was started. And so I think it was 20 or $40 million was dedicated to US Forest Service. And under the Trump administration, they told Jeff Sessions was the first AG under Trump. He told Sessions, "Listen, these marijuana cases that these cartels are involved in, they're not getting federal attention. You guys are going for white dope, fentanyl, and cocaine. And I understand that. That's important. But there's a bigger impact to what these guys are involved in, especially on the environmental public safety front." So while we were on sanctuary state lockdowns now in California, tiptoeing around policy, now the federal government had shifted attention and we were working with forest rangers and just kicking butt, man, on grow after grow. And the US attorneys were prosecuting these. We were going up against upper level plaza bosses now, tracking the money, these people involved in
Mhm.
trafficking, human trafficking, child sex, fentanyl. And that lasted, for a couple of years through that first administration. Obviously, we know what happened for the next phase of the administration throughout America. But that made me realize how unaware our politicians were of this issue. And I have been pushing, as you know, and we've shared this even since our first podcast on Cleared Hot, man. And I appreciate your support on this. coming from our mutual backgrounds, especially being from California, I've said this needs to be handled as a number one US priority. I mean, this has to be in the top 5. Domestically, we have to protect our people first and foremost, and this is an embedded domestic terrorist. I mean, there's no other way you can define what these guys are doing.